had in July was 48 degrees in 1933. If it's 48 degrees in July, you're going to need more than a sweatshirt because that's going to feel really cold to you. Brittany, I have Charlotte up here right now. It looks like you guys have been in the 50s a couple times. 1961?
Yeah,
53?
1961.
Is that cold? I think it's cold.
I think that's chilly for Charlotte, but I will bring you back to 1892, just 15 years after we started record keeping, and the lowest high temperature was 63. And I'm just trying to think of myself right now as we hit 99, thinking of how I would feel if I knew that the high tomorrow was going to be 63. I'm shocked.
Could you imagine?
I wonder if could there have been a tropical system nearby? I mean, holy guacamole.
You're both sitting there with your arms crossed right now. Do you guys realize that?
I'm just trying to think because to only have a high of 63, you would need some kind of really strong cold front, a tropical system or something where maybe like the low was 60 or something. We just didn't move much because of, maybe persistent rain. But I'm thinking of the days, even in the last 4 years or growing up, where it rained all day. And I feel like the lowest would be like 72, if it was low 70s and it stayed that way all day. So I'm trying to think of how I would feel right now if it was 63 outside. So the answer is fantastic.
I think you'd have to have one of those wedges, right? Like we talk about with an Appalachian wedge or a cold air damming situation where you've got, for some reason, some storm off the coast maybe, and you've got also a big high up to the north, and you're getting that northerly wind, and you just get socked in with the clouds and the rainfall. But you're right, there's no way you would stay that cold if you had any sunshine. So that's a pretty impressive weather record and a really good viewer question. I love that one.
It was a good viewer question. Well, Tim, how many more storms are you expecting that you guys are going to get for the rest of today?
Well, at this point, our radar has quieted down for the most part. We had a little line come through earlier. We showed you the shelf cloud from Winston-Salem, of course. As you look on the radar there's a little bit of more storm kind of coming closer to Winston-Salem, which that should come closer to maybe your area later on. But overall, we're quieting down, and I don't even have storms in our forecast for tomorrow up here. Charlotte, a bit of a different story, but most of the rest of the week should be quieter.
Yeah, I think we'll get a lot of early rain. It looks like late morning, early afternoon, and then it should stabilize us with not a lot of storms for the rest of the day. Well, Tim, enjoy your dry stretch, my friend. I'll see you back here, same time, same place tomorrow.
All right, we'll talk about something different without the storms.
Fingers crossed.
Hey, good evening, folks. Thanks so much for joining us for Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. I'll be your host for the next couple of hours. We are right off the bat starting with a headline that lots of folks are talking about around the nation. It comes to us out of Jacksonville, Florida. And this is a situation where we saw the gentleman involved with this traffic stop releasing his own video of an incident where he says he was basically punched in the head by Jacksonville sheriff's officers. Now we are seeing the Jacksonville sheriff responding and releasing body camera footage of the incident himself. So this is back from February 19th. The incident involves a man who's been identified as 22-year-old William McNeil Jr. The sheriff's office now sharing their side of the story, basically entailing they say the man was verbally combative and they believe that he was reaching for a weapon. Let's listen now to Florida Sheriff T.K. Waters discussing this traffic stop.
19th of 2025. Yesterday, while I was in church, JSO became aware that cell phone camera footage purportedly of this arrest was circulating on social media. At my direction, the agency immediately began both a criminal and administrative review of the officer's actions. These administrative reviews are ongoing, but the state attorney's office has determined that none of the involved officers violated criminal law. Even though the administrative review has yet to be completed, we are releasing the body-worn camera footage today because Officer Bowers has consented to its release and waived his officer's bill of rights pertaining to the discrete piece of evidence. Because the administrative review is pending, the officer's bill of rights prevents me from releasing any additional information beyond these videos, as it is confidential under Florida Statute 112.532. As JSO's leader, I have vowed to be open and transparent with the public that we serve. Whether the information shared reflects well in this agency or not, I have always done my very best to tell the public exactly what's going on within the agency. When there are allegations of officer misconduct, our agency thoroughly investigates those allegations. And when allegations of officer misconduct are sustained, we hold officers accountable, as I've done times in the past. In this case, the cell phone camera footage that began viral circulation over the weekend does not comprehensively capture the circumstances surrounding this incident, and that is to be expected. Part of that stems from the distance and perspective of the recording cell phone camera. Another part of it stems from the fact that the cell phone camera did not capture the events that preceded Officer Bowers' decision to arrest McNeil. Moreover, cameras can only capture what can be seen and heard. So much context and depth are absent from recorded footage because the camera simply cannot capture what is known to the people depicted in it. As a 33-year law enforcement officer, I understand the importance of thorough and complete investigations. One piece of evidence considered in a vacuum without any context can lead to skewed conclusions. When incomplete cell phone camera footage becomes the basis on which public opinion turns, the results can be equally faulty. A rush to judgment, whether it be in a criminal investigation or in a court of public opinion, can lead to flawed conclusions. Tonight, I'm sharing the footage from the body-worn cameras of the arresting officer, Officer D. Bowers, and two of the assisting officers, Officer D. Miller and Officer G. Curse, so that the public has more complete understanding of this incident. Before I deliver the currently available information and play the relevant body-worn camera, I want to be clear about something. Yes, there absolutely was force used by the arresting officers, and yes, that force is ugly. But as I've said many times before, the reality is that all force, all violence is ugly. And just because force is ugly does not mean it's unlawful or contrary to policy. But moreover, I want to provide the public with some background information pertinent to this incident. Since January 1st, 2025, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office has been involved in 38,805 traffic stops. Even as I speak, that number is climbing. The overwhelming majority of these tens of thousands of traffic stops were made without incident. After this traffic stop on February 19, 2025, McNeil was arrested for resisting a police officer without violence, driving on a suspended driver's license, and possession of less than 20 grams of marijuana. On February 20, 2025, McNeil pled guilty to and was adjudicated guilty of resisting a police officer without violence and driving on a suspended driver's license. Those pleas of guilty were accepted by a local judge who found them to have been factual basis and to have been voluntarily made by McNeil. After the resolution of this criminal case, McNeil took custody of his cell phone, the one he presumably used to record the footage that was shared on social media, on March 5th, 2025. At no time, February to now, did McNeil contact JSO to file a complaint, nor share with the agency the cell phone footage that is circulated on social media. As I said earlier, immediately upon becoming aware of this footage, JSO began a criminal and administrative investigations into the incident. Had McNeil filed a complaint, JSO would have started this investigation at that time. But we were not aware of this allegation or of improper use of force before this weekend. As this is agency's pattern of practice in any circumstances of use of force, the relevant body-worn camera footage was reviewed by multiple levels of supervision. However, as you'll see in short order, the body-worn camera footage does not capture Officer Bauer's response to resistance when McNeil was seated in the driver's seat. As I explained, although the State Attorney's Office has deemed it not criminal, the response to resistance is now subject of a pending administrative review to determine if Bauer's conduct violated JSO policy. The law requires that a person comply with the police officer's commands during a traffic stop. This is extremely important. There are not options. If you disagree, take care of it someplace else, but not on the side of the road. No one enjoys being the subject of a traffic stop, and there are times in which citizens dispute circumstances of their stops. But the law is clear. A person must comply with an officer's commands, even if that person disagrees with that officer's reasons for the stop. Within 21 seconds of his civil stop or civil traffic infractions, driving without illuminated headlights during the rain or failure to wear a seatbelt, McNeil refused to provide stopping officers with his driver's license and registration. 14 seconds later, he locked his car door and refused to exit the vehicle, despite being told many times that he was under arrest. Moreover, McNeil was warned 7 times that he needed to open the door and exit because he was under arrest for resisting an officer without violence, or police would be forced to break his car window. Soon after McNeil was outside his car, officers found a large, unsheathed serrated knife on the driver's side floorboard. Now I'll play relevant portions of the body-worn camera of the 3 officers, Officer Bowers, the stopping and arresting officer, Officer Miller, the second responding officer who spoke to McNeil from the passenger side of the vehicle, and Officer Kirsch, one of the assisting officers.
All right, folks, as we're waiting for this video to queue up with some audio, just wanted to let you know that, of course, this is raw footage, and the Jacksonville Police Department has shared this footage in an effort to respond to a post that was including a video of this driver in question being pulled over, being punched in the head multiple times by a Jacksonville sheriff's officer. This is something that we want to always just caution you when we start to roll some of this body camera footage like this, that you might find some of the content here disturbing, but we'll break in with any new information. You're watching once again here on Live Impact News.
2 things: you're not wearing your seatbelt. Okay, I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you why I'm pulling you over. Give me your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. Excuse me? I already told you. Step out. Step out. Yep. Keep your hands where I can see them, sir. My camera's on too. I've already told you. Okay. Okay. Right now you're under arrest for resisting. You understand? You're under arrest for resisting. The longer you take us on, the worse it's going to be. Keep your hands where I can see them, sir. Okay. Sir, it's your last warning to open the vehicle and exit before we're going to break the window. exit or we are going to break the window. No, he's under arrest. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Vehicle's locked in. Just locked it up. Put the window down. Patch trying to talk to Hey, I'm gonna break the window. I'm gonna break the window. Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle! Show me your hands. What's the reason? Put your hands behind your back. Resist. Hands behind your back. Crawl with you. What do you mean? I was putting my hands behind my back. I was going hard. Ain't no talking now, man. Ain't no talking. You're under arrest. That's what's going on. Yes, bro. Yeah, I'm gonna take it off now, man. You see him put up. I'm resisting, idiot. Start rescue. 1067. Approximately 3-year-old problem line. Last race delta. No, no. Oh, yeah. Is that you or him? Okay.
It's be Officer Miller.
All right, folks, just so you know, they show another angle of the same encounter. Once again, we just remind you, as you're watching here on Live Impact News, this is a video of a traffic stop that escalated into a physical encounter. So we just wanted to urge you to use discretion as you continue to tune in here.
Well, we're conducting a traffic stop right now. You need to comply. Hey, I'll out the car. I'm going to push it up. Can you unlock the door and step out? I will. Can you step out? You're being done. There's a traffic stop being conducted. You're required to comply. So, yes. Correct. Huh? Okay. So what did he ask for when he I guess talked to you? Yeah. Oh yeah.
I said, so when I get home,
Yeah.
he said, well, for one, your headlights are off under this weather. I'm like,
Okay.
there's multiple people there.
Okay, that's still a legitimate reason to pull somebody over.
There's no rain.
It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on. Huh? Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will. Huh? All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle! Show me your hand.
At 16 per hour.
What's your reason, sir? What is your reason? Step out now. All right.
Watch your back! Stand behind your back! What's wrong with you?
2574, let's hit 33. Stop, stop. You're under arrest.
Yes, bro, yes! Yeah, I'm gonna take it off you, bro.
Yeah.
That's not gonna work.
It ain't no too late.
When the accident step out of the vehicle, you should have done that.
So your partner didn't even ask.
Marijuana in your right pocket.
Yes, it is.
So why close the door if you see him pull up?
Because, man, what you mean? He talked about arresting me and stuff, but I didn't do nothing
No,
wrong.
resisting, idiot.
I didn't do nothing wrong.
Camera room in there.
Came back up to the top, I cleaned up.
I did. You good? I know. You should have put some gloves on, bro.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here.
Huh? See that, John?
What? The knife? Yeah, that's it.
A lot of flat sticks. From you?
Yeah, you see that knife?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest concerns.
Yeah, you see what's right there, right there on the seat?
Who's
Dark hand?
Oh, yeah.
What's called now?
Pass that off to them.
So I've said many times before, social media is not reality. One video clip, devoid of context, can be very misleading. Given that McNeil never brought this incident to JSO's attention, but rather pushed the cell phone camera footage that he had in his possession since March 5th out on social media, one can only assume, and I'm saying I assume, that he intended to inflame the public. The administrative process is still ongoing, and as such, I will neither defend nor commend Officer Bauer's response to resistance until all the facts are known and the investigation is completed. However, As the leader of this agency, I will not remain silent while important facts and information are buried to advance an anti-police agenda. The truth is, William McNeil Jr. was non-compliant with JSO officers within 21 seconds after he was stopped for multiple civil infractions. His non-compliance quickly rose to the level of criminal resistance to a police officer. McNeil was arrested and pled guilty to resisting a police officer without violence. Force absolutely looks ugly, and because all force is ugly, whether or not the officer involved acted within outside JSO policy, that's still what we're investigating. The State Attorney's Office, once again, has reviewed the case materials and determined that Officer Bauer's actions are not criminal. Now, JSO will conduct a thorough investigation to determine whether Officer Bowers acted appropriately with respect to JSO policy. When an officer does wrong, and I think every one of you know this and everyone that's listening, I will stand up here and tell you straight. And likewise, when officers justifiably use force, I'll stand up here also and I'll tell you straight. I ask the public for its patience as the administrative process is completely, competently completed. Once we've determined whether Officer Bowers acted within policy or not, I will immediately share that determination with the public. Out of an abundance of caution, pending the outcome of this administrative review, Officer Bowers has been stripped of his law enforcement authority. Effective immediately, all video footage presented in this briefing is available on all JSO social media platforms, YouTube, and JSO's transparency page. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have right now. Yeah, Eric? Yes, sir.
I know that he was charged with resisting arrest without violence.
Yep.
But there was, when I go back and look at the other video from the cell phone video,
yeah,
I can understand the officer punching the window out. But what I don't understand is, and I know you said that this was not ruled criminal, sucker punching the guy in the jaw.
First of all, let me stop you. Not a sucker punch. I'm not excusing that administratively. I'm going to say that to you one more time. I'm not excusing that administratively. There are things that we definitely need to look at. But the context of this video should tell you everything you need to know.
Well, again, I take it, it looks like it's a sucker punch because he's looking straight and you see this.
Right.
Okay, and then you see them pull him out and you see a couple of punches to the face. Now, again, I understand breaking the window, but he charged him with resisting arrest without violence. So I saw a lot of violence. I think the public saw a lot of violence against somebody that was not violent.
Well, first of all, Eric, don't try to talk the public into what they saw. They just saw the same video as you saw. So what we're doing, what I'm saying is that it is what it is. This is the information that I want to share with the public in context without a short clip. It's very important to do that because it provides a lot of information to the public.
And you brought up
it's important, let me finish. It's important for the people to know that you're not allowed to resist a police officer when he's doing his lawful duties. It's been dealt with several different times. You don't resist when you're doing your lawful duties. You don't deserve to get violated, but you deserve to get what's necessary to get you under control and get you and take you into custody.
Sheriff,
So I'll leave there. Go ahead.
One of the discrepancies people were seeing between the police report and what we saw in the video, and even what we saw in that video, was the allegation that McNeil had reached down for the knife. That was in the police report.
Where'd you see? What police report did you see that in?
In the arrest report for McNeil, that was stated that the officer saw him, reach for the knife that was on the floorboard. The video that was posted to social media, and even in there, I couldn't see any clear indication of that. I mean, do you see that when you're watching this?
No,
this
actually,
video?
I don't see where his hands are. I can't assume, Jake. No one can assume. We operate off facts and facts alone. I can't make an assumption. All I can go by when I read those things is what's stated in the report. I'm not saying whether it's true or whether it's not. I'm saying no one sees his hands at that point. He says, put your hands up, then his hands come up. But it was after the strike to the face. Like I said, again, I'm not trying this case in front of the public. I'm trying to give the public the information in context of what happened. No one saw his hands at that point. Don't know what happened from there, but that's part of the investigative process. Yes, ma'am.
So did officers take custody of the cell phone that he was using to record the incident?
Yes. Put it in the property room.
Okay, that also was not in the report.
But he got it back with all the information still on it.
Can I get back to the sucker punch?
The young lady back there had a question. We can get back to you in a second, Eric.
So did this incident rise to the level that a response to resistance report was generated?
Yes.
Has that been reviewed? And it's still under review? What was the outcome?
So here's the process. When force is used, a response to resistance report is written. It goes to the supervisors. The supervisors then, at that point, review body cam footage. So they would have reviewed this. But you can't see, admittedly, you can't see the strike at all. So it's very difficult. Had they seen that, it probably would have risen to another level to where somebody else would have gone further. Which is why we didn't really know at that time that all this had taken place. I'm a big believer in being honest and upfront. And if something like that happens, I'm going to tell you about it, like everything else that we've done. But it's very important to make sure we get this stuff out here in context so folks can see it. Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, what are your thoughts on the video that was posted on social media? And here's one of the officers kind of turns off, the video turns off what's being recorded. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know that he turned it off. I know that at some point we stopped it, but we wanted to make sure you got a chance to see both views from the officers that were dealing with him publicly, talking to him face to face. At some point it does turn off, but usually when the interaction's over is when that happens. And that's why we're still looking. That's why we look at the entire process. That's why we check for JSO policy violations. I can't give you right now whether they turned it off at the right time or at the wrong time. This is my opportunity to share the information with the public, right? And so now we still continue to refer to the social media video when I just showed you body cam videos with much more information. Let's acknowledge that because that's important. The importance is I'm showing you the video, the body cam video from the entire incident from start until they had to turn it off or we stopped it for time, for time's sake.
Do you know if McNeil ever filed a formal complaint?
He did not.
Agency,
he did not.
Never came up
He never filed a formal complaint, which we'd have been all over it, if had that been the case. But he did not. Go ahead, Eric.
So I just want to get back to the punch. This is just to be a yes or no question.
Wait, Eric, are you going to tell me how to answer a question?
I'm just keeping it simple.
All right, go ahead.
Was it appropriate for the officer to punch this guy in the jaw after he'd already broken the window? Was that yes or no? Was that appropriate?
It depends on circumstances. But it's already determined it's not criminal. Now we're going to look for JSO policy violations. How about that? Is that good?
Well, if a civilian did that to another civilian, they would be in handcuffs.
No, not necessarily. It depends on the circumstances, the situation. I know that's how you want it to be. I know there's a tendency to want to be some massive cover-up that is not. That's why I'm here. I stand up, we talk to you about what happened, we give you what we can give you, then it's up to you guys to report it. But
do you think the public is going to buy that?
I don't know. My point is.
Do you think the black community is going to buy that?
Don't use the black thing. I'm a black man. Wait, hold on, Eric. Hold on.
You're a black man, but
hold on. Stop for a second. Because you're trying to be incendiary, and this is not the time for it. This is me sharing information with our public, right? The whole statements about the black issue. I wouldn't work here if we're after black men or black people, period. I can tell you he wouldn't. I can tell you any other African American or black male or female that works here wouldn't work here if our black citizens are under siege. Not the case. Not at all. I've been alive probably a little bit longer than you have. Haven't had any of these issues. You know why? Because if I was ever stopped by the police, which I was when I was a young man, and they asked me to do something, I did it. It's simple. Simple compliance. It doesn't rise. It doesn't get out of control. That stuff doesn't happen then. Do as we ask you to do. If you don't like the word compliance, just do as we ask you to do then, so that we can get finished. Then you tell us about it if you feel like your rights were violated, and we can deal with it. That's the way it should work. Every single time. Yes, ma'am.
The officer that has been stricken with authority, does he have a disciplinary history at all?
Not that I know of. We'd have to look, but I don't think so. We'll get you that answer. Anyone else?
Any idea how long this internal investigation may take?
It's hard to tell, but we're trying to get it done as quickly as possible. There are other cases working, but we're trying to get it done as quickly as possible because we want to, like I said, we want to share we want to share as much as we can, as quickly as we can, because it's that important. Good? All right, thanks, y'all.
And there you have it, folks. Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters today responding to a viral social media video showing a man who had been arrested, pulled over in a traffic stop, punched several times by an officer. The sheriff here saying that he wanted to release the body camera footage to the public, saying that what was shown on social media was not the full story, did not have all of the context. The way they had described the interaction with the man who was pulled over, they say that he was verbally combative. Those are their words. And they believe that he was reaching for a knife. Now, we can tell you this gentleman, after this encounter, by the way, this happened in February, he posted the video on Sunday. The sheriff's office says that it is launching an internal investigation. It will look into the circumstances. And we also know, as far as the gentleman himself is concerned, he has retained the legal services of well-known civil rights attorney Ben Crump, as well as civil rights attorney Harry Daniels. And statements we're seeing from both of these attorneys saying, from Crump, we saw, quote, "It should be obvious to anyone watching this video that William McNeil, that is the gentleman who was arrested in this case, was not a threat to anyone. Quote, he was calmly exercising his constitutional rights, and they beat him for it." More on this, of course, to come as we get that information out of Jacksonville. We do, meantime, want to turn to some breaking news that is coming down several minutes ago from Kentucky and specifically Louisville, and this is related to the 2020 Breonna Taylor case. We had mentioned here on WCNC Plus the fact that this former officer, Brett Hankinson, had been convicted of deprivation of civil rights in Miss Taylor's case. He was just sentenced, and it sounds like the sentence is not going to run along with what the DOJ was requesting when it had actually requested that the sentence be reduced to a single day in prison. Mr. Hankinson will be sentenced to 33 months for, once again, deprivation of rights. He is the officer who was convicted of blindly firing 10 bullets into Breonna Taylor's home during that botched raid. And we mentioned this before as well. His bullets were not the ones that killed her. However, her boyfriend fired back against officers, and the other officer who returned fire was the officer who fired those fatal shots. So once again, some breaking news this evening here. Kentucky police officer with the former Louisville Metro police officer Brett Hankinson now sentenced to 33 months in prison for deprivation of rights in the Breonna Taylor case as he fired blindly into Taylor's home. Let's go ahead and turn the page here, talk a little bit about the science front, if you will. We had an interesting discussion and a briefing that happened today from NASA. We know that various agencies are always trying to do more when it comes to gathering data and understanding Earth and understanding climate change. And so this is a mission that's called NISAR, and it is a first of its kind satellite. It's going to observe Earth's land and ice-covered surfaces twice every 12 days. It's going to launch no earlier than late July. And as we mentioned, this is supposed to provide scientists a better understanding of the effects and pace of climate change, and also just how to better manage natural resources and hazards. We want to listen in now to this NASA briefing, and we'll jump back in if anything is big and breaking here on Live Impact News.
For July 30th in Sriharikota, India, from the Satish Dhawan Space Center. Our panelists today include Nikki Fox, Associate Administrator for NASA's Science Mission Directorate, Karen St. Germain, Director of NASA's Earth Science Division, Wendy Edelstein, NISAR Deputy Project Manager at JPL, and Paul Rosen, NISAR Project Scientist at JPL. If you'd like to ask a question during today's briefing, use the hashtag AskNISAR on social media. And if you're a member of the media on the phone line, press *1 to get put in the queue. And to get started, I'll hand it over to Nikki Fox.
Thank you, Raquel. As always, NASA science is literally everywhere. Every second of every day, we do incredible science using the unique vantage point of space. Today, we're extremely excited to tell you about our Earth science observations. life-saving data directly into the hands of decision makers and those who work on the front lines of natural disasters across the globe, ensuring the benefit and safety of all. Our Earth-observing satellite fleet, they've gathered data and information about our home planet and our place in it for more than 60 years. And we found that even though we may not always notice it, much of our Earth's land surface is in constant motion. We've seen the devastation a natural disaster such as an earthquake, landslide, or volcanic eruption can cause, both to the surrounding areas and to people's everyday lives. We especially see this in what is called a slow-moving landslide, where the land appears stable, yet the Earth has been moving. The changes, however, are so subtle that right now they're virtually undetectable. That is, before the disaster strikes. The need to be better prepared before, during, and after the challenges caused by natural disasters around the world could not be greater. Now, NASA, in partnership with ISRO, will have the opportunity to do the precise science needed to zero in on these topographical movements. In the coming days, we will launch the first ever mission between the United States and India to observe our home planet like no mission has done before. NISAR truly is a first-of-its-kind dual radar satellite that will change the way we study our home planet and better predict a natural disaster before it strikes. NISAR will scan and take imagery of nearly all the Earth's land and ice surface twice every 12 days in unprecedented detail, literally down to a centimeter. It will peer through foliage, study building footprints, measure flood depth, and so much more. NASA's observations will assist decision makers across the globe in disaster monitoring, mitigation, response, and recovery. You will hear more from the panel on how NISAR will do all of this and all kinds of really exciting details. But I will end with the thought that NASA's data is open to everyone, and it will be filtered into the resources that are easy to understand by decision makers and responders alike. So getting that critical data into the hands of people that need it. Where moments are most critical, NISA's data will help ensure the health and safety of those impacted on Earth, as well as the infrastructure that supports them. We are so excited to partner with ISRO for the first time ever on a NASA science mission. So go NISAR. Now over to Karen St. Germain, our amazing Earth Science Division Director.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And I am also excited to be here. Let me talk a little bit about how NISAR fits into our Earth science efforts. NASA studies the Earth as a system, and today we have more than 24 missions in orbit studying our oceans, land, ice, atmosphere, and life on our home planet. Some of those satellites are generalists, and some are specialists in what they observe. And each mission has great value on its own. But we get a far greater understanding of how the Earth works when we can look at these missions together. Together, we can observe how a change in one aspect of the Earth may drive changes in other aspects. Even small and subtle changes can mean significant differences across the entire Earth system. NISAR will launch on the morning of Wednesday, July 30th. And this science mission will advance our understanding of the Earth system with cutting-edge technology capable of studying changes in land and ice, changes as small as a centimeter in any weather and in both darkness and light. So let's talk about why this is important. It's important because we understand that our planet's surface undergoes constant and meaningful change. These include natural hazards such as earthquakes, landslides, and volcanoes, land subsidence and swelling, movement, deformation, and melting of mountain glaciers and the ice sheets that cover both Greenland and Antarctica, and of course wildfires. We also see human-induced changes, such as farm and ranch production, use of water for municipal drinking and farm irrigation, and infrastructure and land development, houses, commercial buildings, railroads, highways, and bridges. We'll put NISAR's science and observations to work, making it available to inform decisions where and when they're needed, helping to ensure that as a nation, we can abundantly feed ourselves, build resilient housing and transportation systems, and better prepare and respond to natural hazards. More than 180 organizations, from local public agencies to research institutions and private sector companies, are already looking to use NISAR science and data. These early adopters will use NISAR information to support disaster response and recovery, map forests and forest cover density in areas as small as a soccer field, track and manage groundwater supplies, monitor fire risk, track seasonal, annual, and long-term trends in wetland flooding, and measure coastal vegetation to help communities and people who live along the water's edge manage storm surges and other fluctuating coastal conditions. I'm proud to highlight NISAR as a terrific example of NASA's unique end-to-end capability, from innovative technology to help inform decisions. And as an international partnership built upon open science principles, NISAR is also a model for the next generation of Earth observation capabilities. Finally, I want to recognize the leadership of ISRO and NASA's JPL teams. The collaboration, cooperation, and information sharing between our two agencies is a foundation that we really look forward to continuing to build upon. So go NASA, go NISAR, and now I'd like to introduce NISAR's Deputy Project Manager, Wendy Edelstein. Wendy?
Hi, thank you, Karen. It's great to be here to give an update on the NISAR mission, and I'm happy to report that the satellite is fully built, it's tested, and it's ready for its ride into space, and our team can't wait. So right now, the NISAR satellite is in India in its final preparations for launch, coming up on July 30th. I wanted to orient you to what is before we get too far along. So over here is a 1/3 scale model of what NISAR will look like when it's on orbit. What you see here is the spacecraft bus is this square cube over here on the right, and that's what provides all the services to operate the satellite. These solar array panels are attached to the spacecraft bus, and that's for powering the system. Now, this octagonal gold structure, that's what houses the two radar systems, and I'll talk more about those in a moment. But the radars are then used to illuminate this very large antenna you see here, and that's probably the most prominent feature that the NISAR satellite. This large antenna is, when fully deployed, is 12 meters or about 40 feet in length, in diameter, which is about the size of a school bus, so it's fairly long. And when it's fully deployed, it's about the size of half a tennis court. It's made of the surface material here, it's made of a lightweight mesh material, so it allows the whole antenna to fold in to be very compactly, and it can be stowed for launch. So NISAR is an equal 50-50 partnership between NASA and ISRO. It represents the largest collaboration in space between the United States and India. And so to give you since it's such a unique partnership, I wanted to highlight some of the contributions of each mission, of each agency. So can you show my first chart? So at the heart of the NISAR satellite is the two radars, which make up the science instrument. Each radar operates at different, targets different science, and that's based on its operating frequency. The L-band radar, which is provided by JPL, operates at a longer wavelength, and that can see through the trees and see the bare surface of the bare earth and even some substructure. The S-band radar, which is provided by ISRO, operates at a shorter wavelength, and that sees the vegetation, foliage, surface features better. Together, these two radars work together complementary to achieve science that neither could see on their own. Now, both of these radars share that large antenna I just talked about, and that's provided, and its boom, and that's provided by JPL. ISRO, in addition to the S-band radar that they have built, also built the spacecraft bus, the solar arrays, and ISRO is also providing the launch vehicle and launch services. So I often get asked, what is it like working with India? And I have to say, one of the challenges of NISAR is working with an international partner that's 9,000 miles away, literally on the other side of the world. It's with ISRO 13 time zones away. That means a lot of early morning and late evening telecons, and it also means a lot of long distance travel to India. In fact, it takes 36 hours door to door to get to Bangalore, India, where the system was being tested. I personally have been to India over 25 times over the past 10 years, and in the past 2 years alone, I've spent over 150 days working side by side with our Indian building this system and working as a team together. I also have learned and been fully immersed in the Indian culture, and it's been a very big highlight for me personally. Now, a satellite the size and complexity of NISAR requires a lot of testing, both at in the US and in India, and we've been testing this system for the past 5 years. So I'm going to show a short video that shows our journey through our testing at JPL. Go ahead and roll that. So here's where the S-band radar was delivered in July, early 2021, and was integrated with the L-band radar. We installed the boom and the reflector, as you can see there. We went through a series of tests, including thermal vacuum, vibration testing showed here, and then we deployed the boom. And then we deployed the reflector. And here you can get a real good idea of just how big that antenna is. Once it was fully built, tested, we then stowed it for launch and made sure it was ready for our ship to India. So then we packed and prepped up the system to take to India. We transported it to the March Air Base Reserve in Riverside, California. And then we put it on a massive C-17 military aircraft, as shown here, so it would make its 9,000-mile ride to India. So the radar arrived in India in March of 2023, and at that point we started our integration with the spacecraft. So go ahead and show my next slide. Okay, so here's a picture of the happy JPL and ISRO teams testing the system in the beautiful facilities at ISRO. On the right you see the instrument system, and on the left is the spacecraft. In my next video you'll see an important test called, one of our final tests called in a special facility called an anechoic chamber. And what that means, it's a very quiet room that allows all the systems to work as they would on orbit to make sure there's no interference or noise that could cause any degradation in the performance of the mission. And this is a really important test to make sure that everything works as expected. So go ahead and show my last picture. So all of the system testing is now complete. We've now shipped the NISAR satellite to the launch site in May, and the launch site in Sriharikota, which is on the east coast of southern India. We've completed all the system checkouts, the rocket's fueled, and as you can see here, it's been fully encapsulated in the launch vehicle fairing, and we're ready to launch on July 30th. And on a personal note, I just want to say I've spent my entire career working on radar missions for JPL, and NISAR is the highlight for me. I can't wait to see the science it produces and the impacts it has, both on real-world applications and the societal impacts. So I think it'll help people around the world. And to hear more about the exciting, amazing science, I'm going to hand it over to Paul Rosen, the project scientist. Go NISAR!
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, it's great to be here. You've heard a lot about the science and applications actually from the other panelists. So I'm going to focus on NISAR's ability to do these things, the methods that we're going to do this, providing new insights into Earth's changing surface in ways we've never seen before. So remote sensing missions like NISAR are storytellers, I would say, about Earth and how humans interact and connect with the planet, with all its beauty and abundance and dangers. And NISAR is a truly great and unique storyteller. Because of the fact that it's a radar, we provide reliable data, all-weather sampling of the Earth, day and night, and we're doing this every 12 days over all land and ice-covered surfaces of the Earth. So we sort of build up a movie, frame by frame, of every point on the Earth's surface, and we don't have any frames that are missing because of the reliability of the radar data, such that we get this sort of all the action in the movie that we can see. So NISAR provides very fine resolution for a radar, and we do that using a somewhat magical technique called synthetic aperture radar. If you could cue the animation to show what this looks like. So here you can see the radar is flying along its orbit track in the top left. Send out pulses of energy from the radar, given the size of the aperture, the antenna, and the wavelength. We have a very large footprint on the ground. So if we were to just use those pulse echoes coming back all by themselves individually, we would get a very blurry picture of the Earth. But because we are pulsing over 1,000 times per second, we can collect those radar echoes as we're flying along and create an antenna as though it's 10 kilometers in length or 10 miles in length. And that gives us very fine resolution, as you can see building up in the top right corner. So this synthetic aperture radar techniques gives us the resolution, high definition movie of the Earth, so to speak. NISAR also provides 2D motion in its movies. So if you could cue the next animation, you saw this a little bit earlier, but I'll say a little bit more detail about it. We fly in an exact repeat orbit and use another technique called interferometry, radar interferometry, where we fly along, collect the echoes, make the image, come back again at a later time and make another image, and use the radar as a yardstick, basically. The radar waves, we count the peaks and troughs of the radar waves and use it as a yardstick to be able to measure how the ground is moving over time. This animation is over the Central Valley of California, and we can see feet worth of subsidence due to groundwater withdrawal in this area. We have precision down to millimeters and centimeters using this radar interferometry technique. So that gives us 3D motion for looking at volcanic deformation, tectonic plate motion, land subsidence, as you see here, and anything that's moving at the scale of a centimeter or so. NISAR also sees the Earth in a fundamentally different way than optical systems and many other systems. So if you could cue the next graphic, we see in the part of the spectrum that's invisible, it's above the red. If you think of the rainbow as all the different colors of the spectrum, we're somewhat above red, so above the over the rainbow. And by virtue of this, we are not susceptible to clouds, and we see very different things. We see the electrical properties and the structural properties of the surface. So in this graphic on the left, you can see an optical image from Landsat, another NASA satellite in partnership with USGS. And you can see, first thing you see is it's a little bit hazy because of the cloud cover that we can see at visible frequencies. You can also see a river, and there's rainforest below in this area of Peru called Pacaya Samaria. On the right, however, what you're seeing now is the radar image from an airborne system that we sent down, airborne radar, at the same wavelength as NISAR. And what you see is a very different picture. You see the greenish colors are rainforest, and the pink and reddish colors are flooded forest. So we're actually penetrating through the canopy and reflecting off the trunks and the water below the surface, below the canopy, to give us a very clear picture of what's flooded and what isn't flooded. The black area of the river, of course, is actual open water. So this gives us a very distinct view, and by virtue of the fact that we have two radars at two different wavelengths, such as we have at S-band, the shorter wavelength, and L-band, the longer wavelength, we increase our sensitivity to the ability to see different kinds of vegetation. We can see smaller vegetation, we can see larger vegetation. It's very important for agricultural monitoring and food sustainability studies. So this, the story that we can tell on many different fronts, from cryosphere, from ice sheets and sea ice changes, from forest degradation, agriculture, and all kinds of hazards around the world using our interferometric measurements. It's just quite astounding, and I'm really looking forward to this. I've been working on this mission for, I guess, 30 years to get it going, and in partnership with NASA headquarters, ISRO, and the broader science community, I can tell you the excitement about NISAR is just growing daily as we get ready for our July 30th launch. Thank you. And
Okay, folks, there you see it, a little bit of this NASA briefing on the NISAR satellite that's going to help with better data gathering when it comes to monitoring the land and the ice-covered surfaces of the Earth. Of interest for folks who kind of nerd out over the science stuff, our Weather Impact team is actually set to do a chat with NASA about this program, about this satellite this week, so we urge you to keep it here on WCNC Plus and make sure that you're tuning in for our 6:30 live weather impact stream, because it will be running at one of those streams this week. So super cool stuff, and more of this to come in just a little bit. We're going to kind of keep it here with science, if you will. We're talking about weather specifically, though. We've really had a lot of weather headlines lately, not just locally, but also nationally. And so we're seeing quite a few updates to share. First of all, we do want to start with a look at what we can expect as far as weather impacts here in the Carolinas going forward, because we know it was a weather alert day for heat. Sounds like we could get a little bit of a reprieve on that front, but some storms a possibility. Let's listen in here to the very latest of that forecast.
Well, hopefully people noticed the dew point today, because it was better, although it probably wasn't a lot better.
But I think it got better too throughout the day. Wouldn't you guys agree? Because I feel like y'all coming to work a little bit later was not the same. It was like even closer to 11 and 12. Yeah. Because our dew point actually peaked around 72, but Colin, you make a good point. It's 66 now. So as that continues to lower, conditions will get better.
Just feels better outside at least.
Yeah.
Even though it's hot.
And that's a sign of what's to come.
Yeah.
So, all positive here. More storms tomorrow, more cloud cover actually will result in slightly cooler temperatures here in Charlotte. So tomorrow is going to be a little bit cooler. Again, I know cooler is relative since it is July. And then midweek, drier as well, with those dew points likely falling into at least the low 60s. So a lot of relief to come before heat eventually returns. As we know, not all good things can last forever, right? Current temperature is 97 degrees in Monroe, Sherrod, 97 as well in Charlotte currently. But temperatures peaked at a whopping 99 at Charlotte Douglas earlier today. Still currently feeling at or above that 100-degree mark if you're pretty much south of I-85, but starting to see some of those outflow boundaries result in some slightly cooler air. Shelby, Lincolnton in the mid-90s for feels like temperatures, and then look at Morganton only in the upper 80s. Now, things are going to improve midweek. In fact, Wednesday and Thursday especially, we will actually feel like the air temperature you see on the thermometer. Now, eventually, humidity starts to creep back up by Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, probably 2 days that we'll be encouraging folks to stay weather alert, as we likely could have once again heat advisories issued for the Charlotte area. Now remember, heat like this and heat like this, a little bit more normal for this time of year. But once you get past that 103-degree criteria, that's when you're more exposed to heat-related illnesses. So that's the time that you'll really see our team hone in on that heat risk. Locally across the area too, a few more storms possible tomorrow. We've already started to see some of these pop up here in portions of south and eastern Stanley County. Now moving into Anson, you can see a lot of heavy rain associated with this storm right over Big Lick, New Salem, Norwood, heading south and east toward Ansonville, Polkton. Time of arrival here within the next hour or so. Wadesboro around 7 o'clock, right when we're wrapping up that 6 to 30 live impact weather stream. And of course, we can see Polkton down toward Peachland closer to about 6:45, 7 o'clock. So give or take a few minutes. These storms, as they're pushing south and east, are starting to weaken a bit, but we still have some pockets of heavy rain here starting to move into northern Catawba County. Wider view showing also additional storms could develop along this outflow boundary, but thankfully nothing expected to be severe. A cool little radar feature there. We talk about outflow boundaries a ton this time of year. You see that one up to the north, but look at how many outflow boundaries we have in this view. So you have one right here, one right here, one right here, one right here, and one right here, and one actually at the bottom of your screen. So about 8 outflow boundaries all colliding together. If you actually look at these storms that are newly developing between Newberry and Greenwood, they're actually developing because of that collision of the two. And if you've ever wondered why in the state of Florida in the summertime, if each sea breeze is equally as strong, why they collide in the middle of the state, so places like Orlando see worse chances for severe weather, it is essentially that same thing. That collision, it allows for updrafts to form new storms and then eventually can become much stronger. So we don't really get the same influence because, of course, we only have the sea breeze coming in from the coast here in the Carolinas, and it's only one and it takes a while to get here, but we certainly can see sea breeze collision storms develop across the area. So, of course, we're watching that now as we progress through the rest of tonight. Storms are going to be relatively few and far between. And then more storms, of course, heading into Tuesday, scattered mainly in the midday afternoon, early or late morning, early afternoon. And then we are drier and a little bit more quiet Wednesday, Thursday, with more heat again returning by the end of the week.
Brittany, thank you. Yeah, and so you can see towards the tail end there of that forecast, the fact that we could have some more weather alert days in the future, particularly over the weekend, with some possibly dangerous conditions. We wanted to make sure that folks are continuing to get all the information that they need to stay safe. So our Miles Harris spoke with a doctor and also talked to folks who actually do a lot of outdoor work just to talk about how they stay safe and how we can all kind of take away some lessons from that. By the way, you're looking live right now. Here's I-77. Sun is still out. We know it's probably going to still be really, really toasty, James, and muggy, but maybe less than this morning or less than this afternoon. I hope so.
Let's see, Vanessa, right now at Charlotte Douglas International Airport, where they take the official Charlotte observation, the air temperature is 91 with a heat index of 96. So it's improved.
Oh, okay. Yeah, much improved by a few degrees, I think, the heat index is. Yeah. We'll take it. I mean, I've been doing some outdoor walks even throughout these weather alert days, but of course, just keeping in mind, right, all the safety things that you hear our crews talk about. The shade, the water, hydration, frequent breaks. And this is all the things that folks are going to hear from Miles's piece, right?
Yes, right. So Miles had some good advice today for anyone who has to be outside. Lots of you have to be outside for some reason or another. So here's what he found.
From construction workers to moving crews, Charlotte's outdoor workforce faces heightened risks during the summer heat, which is why health experts stress safety protocols are critical.
The heat is really just our biggest issue.
For people who work outside, adjusting to the heat is a must in efforts to stay safe.
With the heat, generally our natural body's response is to dilate your arteries. You're going to want to sweat. You're losing a lot of volume. So it's important to stay on top of that.
That's why some businesses like Morris-Jenkins are making sure their staff is staying safe.
The breaks are the most important part. Go sit in your van, cool down, then come back and finish the work. I'd rather take a little bit longer on the job to get it done right than risk the health of the technician.
But it's not just workers. Medic says they responded to 15 heat-related calls here in Charlotte over the weekend.
You want to be careful in the heat.
Dr. Rohit Bandari with Piedmont Medical Center urges hydration before and during any outdoor activity.
When you are sweating, you're losing that potassium, you're losing the sodium.
To protect you and your family from heat-related illnesses, Mecklenburg County Public Health recommends limiting physical activity outside, drinking plenty of water, and wearing lightweight, light-colored, loose-fitting clothes. In Southeast Charlotte, I'm Miles Harris, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, so with that, we want to keep it here with weather impacts and move to the flooding element here because we know that flooding has made a lot of headlines recently. Here in the Carolinas, of course, not in the Charlotte area specifically, would say of note, but definitely we're seeing in North Carolina some recovery still underway. In Texas and Missouri, this is a big thing that we're still seeing. We want to check in with the latest from the Texas flooding because, you know, of course, we're seeing the death toll really just staggering. We've got some changes, though, that we're seeing in the folks who are missing, stark drop, if you will, in the count. And so we have a report here on what the very latest is with that front. So let's listen in and we'll pop back in with any more updates.
Search efforts are continuing in the Texas Hill Country following the deadly July 4th flood. In hard-hit Kerr County, where at least 107 people have died, officials have revised the number of people still missing from 97 to 3 Saturday. The drastic decrease comes after many of the people initially reported missing were found safely, according to a release from the city of Kerrville.
We are coming to the near completion of the search and rescue phase. That's phase 1. Then we get to the recovery stage. And where we are, folks, is we're getting ready to start the recovery stage.
In a special commissioners court meeting, Kirk County engineer Charlie Hastings told commissioners the conditions made survival nearly impossible in some areas.
Our model is showing heights of 40 feet, and we already know from talking to people 55 feet on some parts of the river. You can't live through that. Yep. It was a tsunami. It was an inland tsunami.
While local officials work to address concerns, Governor Greg Abbott has called a special session for the Texas legislature to address items like improving early warning systems for flood-prone areas, providing relief funding, and strengthening emergency communications. Before the special session started, Texas Democrats and activists came together to draw attention to the tragedy and the role they believe the changing climate played.
This isn't just happening in Texas. North Carolina, New Mexico, and New Jersey have recently experienced unprecedented 1,000-year floods, and these deaths are caused by the climate crisis.
In New York, I'm Lee Waldman.
Okay, and so we had alluded to just a few moments ago the fact that Missouri now seeing flooding impacts. In fact, we know that there was swiftwater crews that were from Missouri in Texas helping with the efforts there, now being recalled now that they've been cleared from Texas to come back to Missouri because there is a flooding issue that is underway, in fact, prompting rescues like we just saw here today. Look at this. This is really scary situation where a woman had to be rescued. As you can see, she was found clinging to a tree. This was in the midst of flash flooding that happened in Kansas City. And look, I mean, you can see the rescuers were able to get her into their rescue boat. We're told this happened near Indian Creek, if you're familiar at all with the area. And the battalion chief actually weighed in on this rescue, saying that they actually got a call from someone who was walking by the area. They might have even lived in the area. They heard a lady out in the water screaming for help. And so that's how they knew to go out there. And they found that there was this person who was about, they say, 50 to 75 yards off the bank where the water had clearly come up to. It looked like maybe up to chest level from just her clinging to the tree. It was up pretty high up on her body. And they were able to get that rubber boat out there, get through the floodwaters, and they were able to get her apparently uninjured, but definitely tired and shaken. She did get evaluated on scene. But just sort of speaking to the larger issue of flooding that we are seeing in that area where you've got several creeks that are tending to flood, are doing so and holding on to that water. And so I know, James, you've been looking into some of the potentials for, you know, what it could look like maybe going forward. What are you seeing?
So this is the National Weather Service homepage for the forecast office in Kansas City. You can see on your screen right now a lot of red, a lot of pink that jumps out, Vanessa, and that's because they too are having extreme heat. That's what those colors represent. But you'll notice splotches of green on here, and that's where the flood warnings are still active at this hour. And if we switch over just to look at the water gauges, the rivers and the creeks gauges, you can see we do still have some rivers and creeks in this area that are still forecast to rise up to flood levels, because as that water works its way downstream, it's going to begin to impact new communities. This is, of course, what we saw in Texas. This is what we saw in North Carolina, is we got to get that water flowing down. So you can see right here on the Grand River near Sumner, that is forecast to reach at least moderate stage of 28 feet as they look towards the evening hours. We're also forecast to see some flooding along portions of the Mississippi River. You can see that is already kind of at a minor flood stage, about 17 feet here for this particular community. But you can see all the way down Troy in, I'm not sure how to say the name of that river. I do apologize for that, but my emphasis, my point on the impact here is they're going to climb, Vanessa, to 28 feet, which will be 1 foot shy of major flood stage. So that is the impact of the flash flooding. And I'll tell you, Vanessa, I got a text this weekend from Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich, who was on vacation in Hawaii. They too in Hawaii are having these flash flooding. We heard it in the story right before this one. Texas, North Carolina, Ohio, New Jersey. It's just relentless this summer with the amount of flash flooding we're seeing.
And I mean, you mentioned how you have these gauges. I guess I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here a bit, because I know that one of our upcoming reports we're about to share with folks is about this new water sensor system that's in South Carolina that Clemson is working on. So would something like this, I guess, add to the sensors that, for example, you're able to pull up? What was that, National Weather Service, that website?
Yeah, so from weather.gov, we can see sensors that NOAA and the USGS have. And actually, if I just kind of pan on over to the Carolinas, antennas, you can see the amount of sensors that we have in both North Carolina and South Carolina. And we'll learn more, to your point, about some new initiatives in upstate South Carolina. But probably worth mentioning is that right here in Mecklenburg County, Sharp Mech Stormwater has a whole series of sensors too. So when you see our impact team doing flash flooding coverage, you can kind of just see the density of flooding meters and gauges we have along our very dense creek network right there. All those little dots, luckily they're all green right now. That all means that there's no concerns. But we do have these all across the country that, you know, we use here at WCNC, and the public can use them too by going to weather.gov.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some interesting technology. The sensors, I know sometimes we can actually look physically at the cameras. There's like here in Charlotte, you know, I feel like we've got this pretty extensive network of cameras where they show, like, for example, you know, Sugar Creek, like what's it looking like? And I know you're actually, looks like you're about to cue this up for us, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's called Mecklenburg FINS, the Flood Information and Notification System. And let's see if I can get it to load. But you're absolutely right. We have these cameras that go along with all the sensors we were just talking about. The sensors, by the way, many of them also take rainfall accumulation. So that's actually what it just defaulted here to. But I'm pretty sure I can get over to creek cameras, because creek cameras are great because they allow us to show you what that flooding would look like. Again, there's no flooding right now in Mecklenburg County or Charlotte, but if there were, we do have this whole network of cameras that we can access that are publicly funded, because seeing is believing.
Yeah. Yeah, and we know for a fact that sometimes folks need to see visually, you know, with, if not with their own eyes, with maybe some visuals, which is why we always ask folks, if you ever see weather in your area, to always, if you can safely do so, snap a picture and video and send it to us via Near Me, which is in our WCNC Charlotte mobile app, because that really does help tell the story and show your neighbors and folks maybe just outside your community who aren't seeing it with their own eyes what's going on, and it can help steer folks either away from a particular trouble spot or whatnot. So we alluded to the fact that South Carolina is working on this new water sensor system. This is for Greenville County. It's supposed to improve flood warnings by providing this real-time data for streams and rivers. And so this is called the Intelligent River Project, and really prompted by the fact that the state, South Carolina, has 30,000 miles of streams and rivers. And during a flooding situation, they really just need to know the very latest as soon as they can get it. So with that, here's a little bit more on this Intelligent River Project, this new water sensor system in South Carolina.
You could pass by this spot on Vincent Drive in Greenville County and not think about flooding. But underneath flows Little Creek, which can become a big creek in a flood situation. There can be a lot of water in a hurry.
We did some analysis, and it showed us that the drainage area to this spot had flood risk. And so there's flood risk for houses and personal property. So what we're doing is just adding more information in that can be shared with the bridges and road managers.
Information gathered by Clemson professor Christopher Post and others involved with the Intelligent River Project. The project places these, basically radar in a box, on the sides of bridges. The goal is to get 125 of these bridge boxes installed by the end of the year in the Upper Savannah and Saluda watersheds.
This is really funded by and working directly with the South Carolina Office of Resilience. So they have a long-standing goal to increase the density of gauges.
The need is great. There are 30,000 miles of streams and rivers in South Carolina.
During a flood situation, the sensor uploads information to a cloud-based system that gives instant information to whoever needs it.
That's important to the state. The SOR gave $300,000 to the project. That buys a lot of sensors. Dr. Post is excited.
It's something we can quickly deploy because we can just glue it to the side of bridges and get data for a lot of locations.
Some of the sensors were placed before Hurricane Helene. Even though one got knocked from its bridge, it kept transmitting data during the storm.
We never found it, but it kept reporting.
A real-life test for a life-saving tool.
All right, folks. More on weather impacts to come, of course. Meantime, we want to pivot quickly and talk about a story we've got coming up for you on the news at 11 here on WCNC Plus. And this is something that has a lot of y'all talking right now. This is prompted by a post on social media, and folks are reacting to these videos of alleged abuse by a dog groomer in the Mooresville area. And our Tradisha Woodard has been looking into some of these allegations and also what the community is saying. And whether there's any sort of investigation underway. So Tradisha joining us here in the Live Impact News studio. Thank you for stopping by and getting us an update on your piece. It looks like you're in the process of putting together your report, but tell us a bit about this place. This is a Classy Critter Pet Grooming, right? That's the name of the business.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the video already circulating on social media, I highly don't recommend it. Basically, it shows one of the employees in the midst of grooming the dog, punching the dog, yanking the dog. You can also see them kind of like choking the dog, slamming the dog in different directions. And it has spurred a lot of reactions on social media. So the video was posted by a former employee who was recently let go due to a family emergency. She shared the text messages between her and the owner. And the owner was basically saying, she was like, oh, in the text messages, she basically said, you let me go for a family emergency, but you still have an animal abuser there. So not only the video, but just the text messages was very startling for folks. The owner responding saying, well, is also a video of you not being too nice with animals as well. I think she maybe, for one, didn't think that the former employee would post the text messages thread. But I think the text message thread was getting even more feedback saying, okay, so you're very well aware that employees are abusing animals on camera and you've done nothing about it. And is it because this video is now released that you fired the employee, or was she fired before? So that's still a gray area. I went out to the facility myself. They definitely didn't allow us on campus. We tried, the parking lot was completely empty. Not sure if that's normal for a Monday, but definitely not talking to media right now. She did release a statement though saying that that employee has since then been fired, and that she cares for all animals that enters her facility, and that, you know, they're working to go around this, and that the animals love to come there. But it has a lot of folks in uproar, basically.
So at this point, is there any form of formal investigation underway? Because right now it's a lot of, it seems like back and forth with the former employee and the actual business.
So the Mooresville Police Department is investigating, as well as the Iredell Animal Service. They're investigating this as well. It's just very unfortunate. I did speak with a woman who said she's been going there for more than 3 years. And she was like, what happened when I left my dog? That's the big question a lot of folks who normally go to this facility are asking, what happened when I left my pet? I don't know. So it's raising a lot of questions. Obviously, the owner reassuring folks that their pets are safe, but obviously this video tells a different story.
Okay. So for your piece, we mentioned it's coming up at 11 as folks keep it here on WCNC Plus. Who are we hearing from, and are there any potential loose ends that you feel like we need to follow up with once the piece airs?
I would love to follow up with authorities to see what they're doing and where they are in the investigation, just to get a little bit more insight. Obviously, when the investigation is active, we don't get much from them. But tonight you're going to hear from that pet owner I spoke about who has the 3 dogs that's been going there for more than 3 years. I also spoke with, even though they weren't comfortable going on camera, I also spoke with the former employee and her sister who put the video up in the first place. We had something scheduled to speak with them today, and then they were kind of backing down a little bit, thinking about attorneys. Obviously, this lady is talking about taking legal action now that that video was posted. So they're waiting to get some legal advice before getting on camera. So for now, you will hear from some clients, basically, who normally took their pets there, and how they're just basically taking a step back. They said that trust is broken, and they're not sure if that's something that can be fixed.
Yeah. Oh, well, I heard about this story. I'm so glad that we're looking into this. And like you mentioned, a disturbing video to see. And I definitely want to learn more about the investigation once we are able to get more. I know, as you mentioned, kind of that will take time as they're able to release information.
I will say another thing that I'll throw out there is there were some talks about, you know, just this facility in general. obviously this is the first time that we're seeing video, but what's been really happening years prior? Were there any reports? A lot of folks in the comments saying, how many dogs are scarred now or terrified to be groomed? How many dogs are walking away abused and just, you've traumatized them for life? And how long has this been going on? Were there any prior reports on this facility? Is this the manager or the owner's first time ever reporting this to the authorities, or has there been previous reports? So just lots of talk. And I'd be interested in digging a little deeper, just checking the history of the place and what, obviously it's been receiving 5-star reviews, so a lot of folks highly disappointed, but I'd be interested in seeing if there were any reports prior to this specific incident.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Tradisha, thank you so much for your reporting, and we look forward to hearing more. And in the meantime, we'll tell folks once again, 11 o'clock here on WCNC Plus. Thank you for stopping by Live Impact News.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Okay, folks, we're going to pivot quickly here. We actually just got some breaking news just into the Live Impact News studio, so bear with us. We're going to try to break it down as best we can, because this is literally just coming in just moments ago, so we're going to read this together. It looks like we have here from the State Bureau of Investigation, so this is North Carolina, a decision that was made regarding an officer-involved shooting investigation. Basically what we're seeing, there's a true bill of indictment, is which they call it. It was returned today for a Newton police officer. He is Lieutenant Carlos Alberto Uribe. He has been arrested and charged with second-degree murder related to an officer-involved shooting that occurred on June 26th. So about a month ago, and we did report on this incident after it happened. There was a man who died after this police shooting. There was a traffic stop that happened late at night, just before midnight on that evening. Newton police at the time said that they tried to pull over a motorcycle on Highway 70. They say it didn't have a registration plate. It was speeding. It was driving recklessly, and the driver did not stop and, in fact, tried to escape from police into the city of Conover. That is according to Newton police. Eventually, police pursued that driver until the motorcycle and the patrol vehicle ultimately, they say, collided in Conover. Then police said that there was they called it a brief physical altercation, but there was a physical struggle of some sort, a fight of some sort, in which the police officer here in question shot the motorcycle rider. That motorcycle rider was 21-year-old Camden Skylar Childers. He lived in Stanley, and he died at the hospital. At the time, the officer had been placed on administrative leave. There was an internal investigation. There was the State Bureau of Investigation, which we just alluded to. And so what we're seeing here, the very latest here tonight, is this decision here via SBI that we're learning about. An indictment returned today for this police officer involved, Lieutenant Carlos Alberto Uribe. Once again, arrested and charged with second-degree murder. There's a look at his mugshot. According to Catawba County jail records, he is 28 years old. We're reaching out, by the way, to see if we can get more information from either Newton Police or maybe the district attorney. But once again, this is information that's coming to us from SBI. So once again here, just to kind of recap the breaking news we've got for you here on Live Impact News. Just moments ago, we've learned that a Newton police officer has been arrested and charged with second-degree murder connected to a June 26th officer-involved shooting, in which the authorities say this officer was involved with a motorcyclist who they tried to pull over for a traffic stop. According to police, fled the scene, had a struggle with the police officer, after which that officer shot the driver of the motorcycle. We're going to dig into this a bit more here on Live Impact News as we get more information. As I talked about, our crew is working in the background trying to gather some more detail. For example, if we can get an update directly from Newton Police, that would be great, or Catawba County District Attorney, and we'll definitely pass that along to you. If we get that during this hour here of Live Impact News, we have about half hour left with y'all before we turn it over to our next hour of programming, but we will keep you updated the very latest as it comes in. All right. If you do want to learn more about the background, by the way, of the story, we've got a web article up on WCNC.com inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. Basically, what you would search for on our platform is the Newton police officer motorcyclist chase. So if you want to kind of brief yourself on the background, as I've kind of outlined some of it. All right, we're turning the page, folks. We had an earlier briefing today on a big topic for the state that we want to get to, and essentially what we're seeing, we've got various folks, North Carolina mayors, law enforcement officials, gun safety advocates who got together this morning. They say they want to urge lawmakers to uphold Governor Josh Stein's veto of the permitless carry bill, which we had mentioned a couple weeks back. The governor had vetoed this, saying that it makes the state less safe. But here we have some advocates seemingly in favor of this veto, urging lawmakers to abide by it and not to try to enact this bill otherwise. Let's listen in.
So before we kick things off, I'm just going to go through how this is going to go down. We're going to start with remarks, and then we'll open up to the press for questions. This webinar is recording, so I'll be sending a copy of it out to everyone after. And then if all members of the press could put their outlets next to their name, that'll make the Q&A portion super easy when it comes to that. I'll be facilitating that, and we'll have time for questions at the end. But let me see, what are we at? I think we're probably at near capacity for what we expected. So let's go ahead and kick it off. I'll pass it over to Mayor White.
Thank you so much, Olivia. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us with Moms Demand Action, Students Demand Action, and North Carolinians Against Gun Violence. Again, I'm Waylon White, the mayor of Ahoskie, and also a fellow board member of North Carolinians Against Gun Violence. And I'm honored to help kick off this important conversation today. The safety of our communities is on the line. Across North Carolina, from cities to our small towns, families are simply trying to live their lives in peace, whether driving to work, taking their families to the park, or heading to church or the grocery store. They deserve to do that without fear. Senate Bill 50 would make that harder. This bill would eliminate the requirement for a permit to carry a concealed, loaded gun in public, removing background checks, training, and other safeguards that help keep dangerous people from carrying hidden weapons in our communities. The last thing North Carolina needs right now is a step backward on public safety. We need to strengthen public safety, not weaken it. We need policies that promote responsible gun ownership, not ones that make it easier for guns to end up in the wrong hands. As a mayor, I think about the people in my town here in Ahoskie, and I know that they're the ones who will feel the consequences of this bill. Governor Stein vetoed Senate Bill 50 because he put our children, our teachers, our small business owners, our police officers, and the safety of all of his constituents first. More guns and more places with fewer safety checks means more road rage, shootings, more everyday arguments turning deadly, and more risk for first responders. And we've seen that play out in the states that have passed similar laws. Now it's up to our legislators to follow Governor Stein's lead, uphold this veto, put safety ahead of politics. We're proud to stand alongside our fellow mayors, law enforcement, and advocates from across the state who are united in that message. We're grateful for your voices, and we're going to hear from some of you shortly. Thank you again for being here and for standing up for a safer North Carolina. Now I'll pass it to David Meeker.
Thanks, Mayor. My name is David Meeker, and I'm the managing partner of Carpenter Development and Trophy Brewing in Raleigh, North Carolina. We do real estate development, mostly neighborhood retail centers, what we call fun retail, filling our centers with restaurants, coffee shops, yoga studios, and breweries. On the brewery side, we have 4 locations, 2 Trophy Brewing tap rooms, and then 2 sister concepts here close to downtown Raleigh. Our developments and our breweries really become people's third places where they like to hang out if they're not at home or at work. The coffee shop they meet for friends, or the brewery after work where they let loose for an hour or so. And those do feel different when their guns on site. It can take the air out of the room, put an edge in the room, makes it less comfortable. There's really no room for something not to go right when there's a gun on site. And it would certainly impact businesses, impact development, impact office buildings, and how safe people feel there, and you can sort of go down the line. And the question is, for what? I think sometimes on Jones Street in Raleigh, folks obviously don't agree all the time, but generally folks do agree on doing what's right for business. And if this is bad for most businesses, who's it good for? And the only business I could think of that it actually helps is a gun store owner. And that's got to be such a small percentage of the North Carolina's economy. I'd estimate under 1%, for the other 99% to be hurt by this law. And it just makes no sense. Doing what's right for business is the one thing that sort of unites us. And we should stay united on this and prevent this bill from happening. I am proud to introduce Dalen Edge, Student Demands Action Volunteer. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dalen Edge. I've been an advocate with Students Demand Action for the last year, and I currently work at Duke University where I attend school, and I work for the Center for Firearm Law, focusing specifically on locating historic gun laws relating to the Bruin Supreme Court decision. I've been a North Carolinian my whole life. I grew up in a very rural, agriculture-based Sampson County, and over the last year, I've learned to call Duke University home. Understanding that while my hometown and Durham are extremely different, they both represent what it means to be a North Carolinian. Owning firearms is a way of life in rural areas, and I support the right to responsible gun ownership. However, Senate Bill 50 is destructive. Lowering the age of allowing even college students to carry a concealed gun in public with no training or background checks will affect college towns like Durham. It also will affect my hometown and other rural areas adversely. Gun violence brings devastation and knows no boundaries, and so we must come together to stop destructive bills like Senate Bill 50. I firmly believe in gun violence prevention advocacy and its efforts for grassroots organizations like Students Demand. We're fighting to create safer gun laws across the country and state. I see an ally in Governor Stein who listened to me and nearly 80% of North Carolinians' likely voters who opposed permitless carry and vetoed Senate Bill 50. We've all been touched by harmful impacts of reckless gun legislation, and I'm fearful of the effects of permitless carry and what the effects will have on the state. So I urge state lawmakers, stand with us and vote no in overriding Governor Stein's veto of permitless carry. If you want to get involved, you can text NC to 644-33 to tell your representative to uphold Governor's veto of permitless carry. I'll pass it to Sheriff Blackwood.
Thank you, Dalen. I am Sheriff Charles Blackwood, Sheriff of Orange County. I am and always have been an advocate of the Second Amendment. If anything, permitting process enhances the Second Amendment. This bill is counterproductive to public safety. It places North Carolinians in danger, and leaders from both parties have recognized this. I'm pleased that Governor Stein has vetoed this bill and hope that common sense prevails. The Second Amendment is not absolute, and the United States Supreme Court has said that the Second Amendment must have certain regulations in place to protect and help protect public safety. This bill, Senate Bill 50, to me seems to be a solution in search of a problem. We have a process in place. That process works. And if it doesn't work, then we need to address where it's not working rather than throwing the whole thing out. So I hope that we uphold the veto, and I thank you for the time. And I will turn it over to the Huntsville Mayor, Christy Clark. Christy.
Thank you, Sheriff Blackwood. Good afternoon. My name is Christy Clark. I'm a member of Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and I'm also an educator in a local public school. And I'm also the proud mayor of Huntersville, and I represent one of the many towns across North Carolina where families are raising children, small businesses are investing in their communities, and neighbors are looking out for one another. We are a people-first town, and when I think of my family and friends, neighbors, and constituents, I can tell you this. Senate Bill 50 is not what North Carolina needs. Let's be clear, permitless carry would open the door to more guns in more public places in the hands of people who haven't had any training or a background check. This is not a recipe for freedom or safety. It's a recipe for more road rage shootings, more gun thefts, and more everyday arguments turning deadly. And the people who will bear the consequences of this decisions aren't lobbyists or politicians in Raleigh. They're the parents picking up their kids from school, grocery clerks stocking shelves, and first responders answering calls, sometimes in the dark. We're already experiencing the consequences of weakened gun laws in other states. We don't need to guess what will happen. We've seen it. We've seen the data and we've heard the warnings from other states. From South Carolina to Georgia to Iowa to Tennessee, law enforcement agents have called this law what it is, a threat not only to public safety, but to law enforcement as well. Governor Stein made the right call by vetoing this bill. He listened to the more than 80% of gun owners, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike who believe in responsible gun ownership through permitting systems with high safety standards. Now it's time for our lawmakers to do the same and uphold that veto. Today we've heard from a business owner, from a student, law enforcement, and mayors across the state. We need to remember the impact of reckless policies is felt in real lives. It's felt by people here today, by the communities of Huntersville, High Point, Orange County, and Sampson County. We are asking to be heard before decisions are made that affect our well-being. Our communities deserve leaders who prioritize safety over ideology. Lawmakers must keep our communities safe and uphold this veto. Thank you. And now we will open up to questions from the media.
If you have a question, you can put it in the chat, or I believe you have the ability to raise your hand and I'll get a notification and enable you to have speaking permission. Sorry, I see your hand raised. I'm moving over there right now. We'll start with Chris Peterson.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry you can't see me. My name is Chris Peterson. I'm with WXI TV in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was wondering, I was wondering how many of you or what the thoughts were on the possibility of this even being vetoed, because from what I can see, it would be an uphill climb for Republicans to even override the governor's veto. So is there a real fear out there that this bill will be, the veto will be overridden in the next session?
I can take that one. I'm a former state legislator, and so I can say that having served there, you never know until the moment of the vote what the representatives are going to do. And so because of that, I think it's important for us to continue to advocate for this, to make sure that every person has heard the message and that every representative and senator knows that it is a priority for us to sustain this veto.
Okay, folks, that's just a little bit of this briefing that happened earlier today as gun safety advocates and also other officials gathered to speak on their concerns with the permitless carry bill, one which was veto, as we told you a couple weeks back, by Governor Stein. They're urging lawmakers to basically uphold the veto and not try to enact this bill any other way. We wanted to turn now to a brand new statement we just got here to Live Impact News Studio, and this is regarding a big loss for our area. We told you before here earlier on WCNC Plus during our evening newscast that prominent Charlotte civil rights attorney James Ferguson passed away. He was 82 years old and was a key figure in desegregating Charlotte schools in the late 60s. We actually just got an update, a statement from Charlotte Mecklenburg Board of Education mourning the loss, they say, of Mr. James Ferguson, civil rights attorney who was instrumental in desegregation. So this is the statement as it reads. Charlotte Mecklenburg Board of Education and the many members of CMS mourn the passing of Mr. James Fergie Ferguson, great leader, attorney, and civil rights activist, instrumental in integrating public schools. Attorney Ferguson will forever be remembered for a life of great purpose, with a sharp legal mind, a passion for doing what's right, and a vision for an integrated educational experience. He fought for desegregation at a time in our society that made it impossible for students of different races to learn together and from each other. There's more to the statement here, but it goes on. In a 1969 landmark case, Swan v. Charlotte Mecklenburg Board of Education, Ferguson advanced a busing plan that led to CMS being what it is today, a vibrant school district that honors the many experiences that each and every child brings to their schools, teachers, and most importantly, their classmates. He started fighting for desegregation, he started fighting for desegregation locally and took his passion internationally when he founded South Africa's first trial advocacy program that served black and white lawyers. But no matter how far his influence reached, he will always be considered a Charlotte legend. Many people who did not know him personally regard him for being a skilled trial lawyer and civil rights activist. And although those things are very true, he was so much more. As several board members can attest to, he had the ability to gather community members in a way that allowed each and every person to share ideas and engage in collective community movements. He was a devoted husband and father. He had a deep appreciation for the arts. Board members have shared that Mr. Ferguson's ability to lead by example profoundly influenced their life and their future pursuits. The diversity of the 141,000 student body is built on the pillar of the work of Attorney Ferguson. Our thoughts are with his family at this time for their loss of a great man. That was Chairperson Stephanie Sneed. And as we talked about a big legacy that he leaves for our area. He went on to, as we mentioned before, represent former Charlotte Mayor Patrick Cannon on federal corruption charges. And in addition to his work, as we talked about, co-founded South Africa's first trial advocacy program. And so lots of folks are reacting to this loss tonight. We don't have any details quite yet about memorial services, but if we learn more about how the community can step up and honor his legacy, we'll be passing that along to you here on WCNC Plus. But yeah, some of the reaction we're seeing, not just from the CMS board, but also the Black Political Caucus of Charlotte Mecklenburg. And you can see here a post from Mayor Vi Lyles writing this: on behalf of the Charlotte community, I extend my heartfelt condolences to the family of noted civil rights attorney James Ferguson, who passed away today. James was a civic leader of great conviction, fighting for equity, justice, and equal rights for all. He was an exceptional friend and mentor, and I will miss him very much. So James Ferguson, once again, passing away at the age of 82, a key figure in desegregating Charlotte schools and a prominent Charlotte civil rights attorney. More to come, of course, on memorials and ways that the community can honor him. All right, folks, let's turn the page here. Live look right now at D.C. You know, we know that there are a lot of big topics that are being responded to by the White House right now. As you could see, live look at the Capitol. There's the White House itself. We've got White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who responded to various reporter questions today. A lot of different topics on the table, including we saw touched on the Epstein files and a lot of the publicity and high interest that the community is sharing for this case and wanting to see more. We also heard tariffs touched on, and also various international relations. So let's listen in to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt once again addressing reporters just outside of the White House.
Good to see all of you. And yesterday, as you all know, we celebrated 6 months of the Trump administration. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you day in and day out here at the White House. 6 months, the most transparent administration in history, if I may add. And I know the president just wanted me to highlight his accomplishments over the past 6 months. As you all remember, because you all covered it on the campaign trail, the president really promised the American people many things, but at the top of that list was to defeat the Biden inflation crisis and to secure our border and our homeland. And I think you've all seen in 6 months' time, the president has delivered on those two core campaign promises. Inflation is now running at a 2.1% annual rate. You look look at our southern border, look at the numbers. Just last month, 0 illegal aliens were released into our country. And then look at what the president has done on the world stage. He has ended wars like India and Pakistan. He continues to work aggressively to end the war in Russia and Ukraine. He completely obliterated Iran's nuclear sites. He has continued to hopefully negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza to end that conflict and release all of the hostages. We've seen hostages released as a result of this president's efforts. And this president is working around the clock every day to deliver on the promises he made. You also look at some of the cultural issues, to abolish DEI from our federal government and our military, to effectively end men and women's sports, which is a huge common sense policy that the American people support. And then if you look at the president's strong executive orders that have effectively ended the chemical castration of young children in our country. Just today, Washington, D.C. Children's Hospital in this city has announced they are no longer going to be prescribing puberty blockers to minors. This is a huge win for America and our children. There's certainly more work to do, and the president is doing it right now, and he will continue for the next 3.5 years. But certainly we've accomplished so much in just 6 months, and I'm happy to take some questions. Go ahead.
Was the president serious, or was he joking this weekend when he said he might block a Washington Commanders stadium deal if they don't change their name?
The president was serious, and it's part of the art of the deal, part of his negotiating skills. As you know, sports is one of the many passions of this president, and he wants to see the name of that team changed.
Why is he getting involved in that? Why does he see that as part of his purview?
I think you've seen the president gets involved in a lot of things that most presidents have not. He's a non-traditional president. He likes to see results on behalf of the American people, and if you actually poll this issue with sports fans across the country and even in this city, people actually do support the president's position on this and the name change. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline.
Michael, go ahead, and then Mary, you can go.
Thank you, Caroline. What's the White House's reaction to Senator Chuck Grassley today releasing the formerly classified Clinton annex showing that led FBI failed to fully investigate Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server, also failed to really look into thumb drives with potential national security risks on them, and emails from President Obama?
It comes as no surprise, unfortunately, and I think that's why you've seen the FBI open up investigations into the individual you mentioned and some others as well.
Caroline. The president just ordered the FBI to release the full Epstein files, just get it all out there.
The president has said if the Department of Justice and the FBI want to move forward with releasing any further credible evidence, they should do so. As to why they have or have not or will, you should ask the FBI about that. Go ahead.
More information, Caroline.
It's up to the Attorney General.
Does the president have any message for the countries that are planning to attend the two-state solution conference taking place later this month?
I'm not quite sure he has a particular message for those countries. I think the president's message on this conflict we've seen in the Middle East taking place for far too long that has become quite brutal, especially in recent days. You've seen reports of more people dying. The president never likes to see that. He wants the killing to end, and he wants to negotiate a ceasefire in this region. He wants to see all of the hostages released from Gaza. That has been a top priority for this president. Within this 6 months, we have seen many of the hostages released, including the last living American hostage, Edon Alexander, which was a result of this administration's diplomatic efforts and approach to ending this conflict. And again, this is another conflict that the president inherited from the previous administration, who was so weak and incompetent, it led to so much chaos and death around the world, but this president is focused on solving it. Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you. So at 6 months, the president is also experiencing some pushback from members of his own MAGA base, especially on the matter of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Is the president satisfied that his own supporters are not heeding his call to let it go and to move on?
I know the president would reject that, Kelly. In fact, he cited over the weekend some polls showing that his approval rating with the Republican Party is actually at an all-time high. He's polling 90 to 95% amongst Republicans right now. That's higher than any Republican president or any leader of this party ever. The president is the creator and the leader of the Make America Great Again movement. It's his baby that he made, and he knows what his supporters want. It's transparency, and he has given them that on all accounts when it comes to everything this administration has done, especially when it just comes to the president himself, taking questions from all of you and the press corps on a near daily basis, multiple times a week. No question is off limits here at this White House, not just for the president, but myself as well. Kelly.
Call on Kash Patel to do more.
Again, as I just answered, the president has told the Attorney General and the FBI director to release any credible evidence that they find, and he also signaled to them over the weekend to move forward with unsealing the grand jury documents that were under seal by various judges across the country, and I believe the Attorney General has taken the proper legal action to do that. Kelly.
You mentioned there also Israel seen stepping up some attacks in Gaza. Has the president expressed his frustration with Netanyahu, and how does this impact the ceasefire negotiations?
Well, look, the president enjoys a good working relationship with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and stays in frequent communication with him. He was caught off guard by the bombing in Syria and also the bombing of a Catholic church in Gaza, which, as you know, I addressed at my briefing last week. And in both accounts, the president quickly called the prime minister to rectify those situations. And we saw Secretary Rubio intervene when it came to Syria. We saw a de-escalation there. And as for the bombing of the Catholic church in Gaza, the prime minister did put out a statement saying this was an accident and they deeply regretted that action on behalf of the state of Israel following his conversation with the president. Jordan.
Has the White House taken a position on Maria Salazar's work visa bill, and ideally, what does the president want to see with a work program for aliens?
Again, I know you asked me about that last week, and I regret to inform you my answer remains the same. I don't think that's the focus of the White House right now in terms of legislative priorities, but certainly I promise you we'll get a readout on the bill. But as I reiterated to you before, the president does not support amnesty for illegal alien criminals, and I think the tragic circumstance that took place in New York City this past weekend underscores the priority of this president to secure our homeland and to deport illegal alien criminals and public safety threats from our country and our community. That's this president's priority right now.
That in the last several months, Americans have become more hesitant about President Trump's different ways that he's been conducting immigration. They think that it's going too far. Is the White House going to limit any ways that it is enforcing immigration across the country?
I think the Trump administration is going to continue to focus on removing public safety threats and illegal alien criminals from sanctuary cities. The president himself has said that's the priority for him in this administration, which the vast majority of Americans do still support, removing illegal, heinous criminals from their communities. And ultimately, the best poll that was ever taken was on November 5th, when nearly 80 million Americans voted to re-elect this president, largely because of his immigration policies. And we've seen they've been a resounding success. Again, 0 illegal aliens were released into the country last month. That's a good thing for all of us standing here and for Americans across the country.
Caroline, there are reports that President Trump or the FBI agents going through the Epstein files were told to flag President Trump's name if it came up. Is that something the president was aware of, or something that he directed those agents or the Department of Justice to do?
I don't believe that's something the White House was aware of. You'd have to ask the FBI.
Caroline, is President Trump satisfied with how aid's being distributed in Gaza right now?
Look, the president is the reason that aid is even being distributed in Gaza at all. He wants to see this done in a peaceful manner where more lives are not being lost. He hated seeing the pictures of starvation of women and children needing that, desperately needing that aid, which is why this administration came to a creative solution to bring that aid into the region. And we want to make sure that aid is delivered to people in need, but certainly does not end up in the hands of terrorists. I think both things can be done at the same time. Look, it's a very difficult and complicated situation, again, that the president inherited because of the weakness of the last administration. And I think he should be applauded and the administration should be applauded for coming up with a creative solution to get aid into the region. The president wants to see peace. He's been pretty clear about that, and our national security team continues to work on this every single day, but of course it's a very complicated situation.
Is the president over the weekend? Commerce Secretary had some pretty tough words for the Fed. It's good to see you.
Hi, Mark. You're sneaking in back there.
I know. I wish I was taller. The Commerce Secretary over the weekend had some pretty tough words for the Federal Reserve Chairman. The White House has kind of sent some mixed messages whether or not his job is safe or not. Will Powell be allowed to finish his term as Federal Reserve Chairman or not?
Look, Mark, the president talked about this and answered these questions for you pretty extensively in the Oval Office. He has no plans to fire the Fed chair, but he has been very transparent in expressing his displeasure with Jerome Powell's management of the Fed and also his policies. And the president is right, by the way. He's been saying this for a while, but finally, economists and experts are agreeing with him that that Jerome Powell should cut interest rates. If you look at our country, by every economic metric right now, it is booming. Look at the trillions of dollars the president has brought in foreign investments. Look at inflation, like I said, continues to go down. He's basically defeated it in just 6 months. If you look at the massive deregulatory campaign this administration has lost, look at the cost of goods. The cost of oil is down 20%. We've added 700,000 jobs to the economy in just 6 months. The manufacturing sector is ticking up again. By all accounts, this is a good economy. In fact, the Wall Street Journal, wherever you are, did in fact give credit for that today. They said that the economy has its swagger back, which is one way to put it. But I think that it's true, and I think that the Fed chair needs to lower interest rates. The president is right about that, and finally, people are catching up to the president on that. Brian, go ahead.
Has the president shared any additional thoughts on privatizing the TSA?
Privatizing the TSA. I haven't heard him talk about that, but perhaps it would be a good idea. I think we can all agree there's a little bit of bureaucracy when you move through an airport, but I'll get with the president, or perhaps you can ask him yourself next time, Brian.
The Congressional Budget Office released updated estimates today about the Big Beautiful Bill now that it's law. They estimate that the deficit will grow by $3.4 trillion by 2034, and that 10 million people will lose health coverage by 2034. I know you guys are critical of the CBO. More broadly speaking, is there any concern from the administration that this bill, now that it's law, will increase the deficit in any way or remove anyone from health insurance that they have legal citizens?
No, look, this bill was a great bill for the American people. It was the largest tax cut for middle and working class families in our nation's history. And the president wants to see this country get our fiscal house in order. That's why this was a fiscally responsible bill, one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation for its size that has ever crossed through Capitol Hill. And the president wants to cut our deficit. That's why he's effectively using tariffs to bring more revenue into the United States to ultimately pay down our debt that has been created by presidents on both sides of the aisles for many, many decades.
There are 11 days until that August 1st trade tariffs deadline. What can we expect between now and August 1st in terms of potential announcements of trade deals with any countries?
Look, I can tell you the trade team and the president himself continue to be very engaged with countries around the world when it comes to our trade agreements. You have the president of the Philippines who will be visiting the White House tomorrow. Perhaps this will be a topic of discussion. You will all see for yourselves in the Oval Office, as you always do. But the August 1st deadline is just really the start date for when the United States of America will begin collecting this revenue from all of the countries around the world who the president sent these letters to. You could see some more letters before August 1st, John. You could have some more trade announcements as well. I can tell you the President, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, Ambassador Greer all continue to be in constant communication with our trading partners. Yes, sure.
Thank you. How do you see the tariff negotiations with South Korea being with those with Japan?
I can check in on the status of the South Korean trade talks for you.
Special envoy is visiting Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah. Does President Trump still believe diplomacy?
Who is visiting?
Tom Barrack.
Okay.
Special envoy Tom Barrack disarming Hezbollah. Does President Trump still believe diplomacy can work with Lebanon while Hezbollah keeps its weapons?
Look, I think the president wants to see diplomacy work with Lebanon and all of the partners in the Middle East. You know, the president has been very clear when it comes to his priorities for Iran. He obliterated their nuclear capability, and I understand that the administration continues to be open if we deem them necessary. As for Tom Barrack's trip, I know the president supports him and he's doing a great job in Syria.
Caroline. According to the House Judiciary Committee, the Biden administration sent nearly $1 billion in taxpayer funds to the left organization in Israel to oppose Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What is the White House reaction?
Well, it's not a surprise to me that the previous administration sent billions of dollars overseas for useless priorities that don't advance America's interests. We've seen a lot of that, which is why this administration has been very focused on clawing a lot of that money back and making sure the American government is spending American tax dollars on America's priorities. Thank you, guys. I'll see you later.
All right, folks, with that, we are going to give you a preview of what's to come here throughout the rest of the week on Live Impact News, as our time here on Live Impact News Even Edition is coming to a close in just a couple moments. We have Panthers training camp, which is getting underway here. Rookies reported today, veterans report tomorrow, and our sports team is reporting for us throughout the day, starting Wednesdays from the morning through the afternoon. We got you covered with sports director Nick Carboni and sports reporter Danielle Stein, so make sure you keep it here to WCNC Plus for the very latest on that. We also have a school supply drive that we want to let you know, if you can believe it, we're getting close to the start of the new school year. We know a lot of students do, unfortunately, start school without the supplies that they need. So we're partnering with United Way to try to collect as many supplies as possible. We have a QR code on your screen that you can scan to learn how to donate, or